Naveen al-Raha is from Damascus. Back in October, when her residency permit in Denmark was rejected, she also walked along the promenade Copenhagen to say goodbye to the Little Mermaid. Two women trapped between two worlds. If her appeal fails, she will either have to return to Damascus voluntarily or be placed in a deportation centre. Our filming is interrupted by a video call from her 10-year-old son, who's still in Damascus.
حورية بحر. لا مو حقيقية تمثال. شايفة منيح أو لا؟ زعلانة بس هي حورية البحر.
Naveen arrived here in 2014 with her father. Because of her anti-Assad activism, it was agreed she would leave her husband and two children to go to Denmark. The idea? She'd travel first, then apply for family reunification. It didn't work out that way. Eventually, her husband remarried. Denmark is the first country in the EU to revoke residency permits, which were never permanent, for people like Naveen, deeming Damascus and its environs safe to return to. And indeed, the bombs are not falling anymore on neighbourhoods like Yarmouk, where Naveen is from. Naveen lives with her father and mother outside Copenhagen in supported accommodation with benefits. They've invited 66-year-old Rahab over for coffee. Rahab is in the same position as Naveen, residency revoked, awaiting appeal and possible deportation. The difference, she has no family or connections left in Damascus. Everyone in this living room is now in Europe, including Rahab on the right in white. But this is what's left of Rahab's home in Damascus, filmed a few years ago.
أصحى الصبح على دقة إسلام على الباب تيتا 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 أنا هاي ما بنساها براسي لهلا كل يوم الصبح بصحى عليها.
There are about 100 Syrians in the same position as Naveen and Rahab in Denmark, up for return with residency rejected. If they refuse to go back, they could be put in a deportation centre. If they go back voluntarily, they could receive a €30,000 incentive per adult to do so. About 130 Syrians have taken up this option. An estimated 30,000 have arrived in Denmark since the war started in Syria. The Danish government's perspective is, I guess, that why should the Danish state have to look after you forever?
Yeah, it's like that.
But why should the Danish state have to look after you forever?
Why they saying we are welcome?
In the first place?
Yeah. If they can't help us or they can't taking care of people, why they accept that people?
Well, their argument was that it was never a permanent arrangement, that it was always just a temporary arrangement, and now that's coming to an end for some people, so that's the end of the deal.
But we tried to be a part of this country. We did what they want. We working, we studying, we trying to get a home here.
We're travelling to one of the deportation centres where some Syrians are awaiting removal. En route, a stopover at Hamlet's Castle, Kronborg. The minority Social Democrat government has co-opted the hardline immigration policies of the right-wing populist Danish People's Party. The Prime Minister here talks zero tolerance when it comes to new asylum seekers. People who represent to some voters an assault on the welfare system here.
There's something rotten in Denmark. There's something rotten here.
What?
We have people living for 20, 30 years. They do not speak Danish, they do not give anything back. And they come and they claim welfare from day one. and that is wrong.
On the other hand, Denmark has taken fewer refugees than some neighbours. Sweden, for example, next door, has taken over 3 times the number of Syrians, although it's a bigger country. For other voters, this is the politics of safety lying in fear.
Normally when you see you have problems, you have to find an enemy and then you find these people. I think so, yes.
So you think these people are being scapegoated?
Yes, right.
Finally, the deportation centre near the castle. The Danish government has a big problem. They can't actually send anyone back who doesn't want to go because the government doesn't do dialogue with Assad's regime. So people could get stuck in places like this for years. Like this Kurdish Syrian we met outside. How long do you expect to have to spend here?
تعرف يعني تتوقع قد ايه رح تضلك هون؟
ما بنعرف ما حدا بيعرف شو وضعنا.
No.
Borgen, the castle of the Danish parliament, sets the stage for Nordic noir and the government's immigration hardline. How close do you think we are to somebody actually being physically and forcibly removed?
Yes, to Syria anytime soon, it is unlikely that will happen because we don't cooperate with Assad. And as long as we don't do that, we can't force anyone to go back to Syria.
Yeah, so they're going to be stuck someplace else for years until the Syrian conflict
They will
resolves.
have to live in a center until they either the situation changes in Syria or they chose to go back voluntarily as some of their countrymen already has done.
This is where policy and people collide. For Naveen, the bombs have stopped, but the regime endures. And when you ask her about returning, she recalls being on a bus at a checkpoint in Damascus 7 years ago. A soldier overheard a woman with children complaining about the wait.
He trying pushing this minibus and say some bad words for all of us and saying, I will kill all of you. And in the end, she gave up. She preferred that she get killed or they arrested her not to make all of us in this situation. Can you imagine this moment? You feel it's not your country. It's not a country to live. Why? What she said, just a word. She don't deserve that. I was watching her. I don't know what happened for her.
The questions then. When does a refugee stop being one? When does home stop being that? And when will Naveen stop having nightmares where she is the woman on the bus?